So, in this video, I want to take you through this is why you are not a top priority to your partner. And this will be part one of a two-part series where we will also talk about how to make yourself a top priority to your partner. So, stay tuned for that video as well. And there are four major reasons that this can take place. Okay. So, reason number one, and this is always a possibility, is that you're just dating the wrong person who's not that compatible with you, or the person is not interested in investing in the relationship. Okay. And if that's the case, what you want to do really clearly here is set a deadline for how long to invest in this person. Like if somebody's not showing up, they're not meeting your needs, they're not participating in the relationship, they're not trying to grow with you, then you need to be like, okay, I'm going to spend 6 weeks or I'm going to spend 4 weeks. Obviously the deadline should be dependent on how long you've been with the person and how much investment you have. So for example, if you've been dating somebody for 3 months, it's going to be a lot different than if you've been married for 30 years and have shared children and a mortgage. Like, your amount of time to really spend on fixing the relationship should be different. But ideally, we set a deadline. And let's say you've been dating somebody for 3 months. Maybe you pick 3 weeks and you're like, for 3 weeks, I'm going to communicate my needs. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be open about what I want. I'm going to be really kind. I'm going to put all of my effort into fixing this relationship and making it work. And if at the end of that period of time that you set, you don't see the needle move, it's time to go, right? It's doing no good to keep you in that relationship any longer. And if you're struggling to leave a relationship, even though you know it's the wrong relationship, you can check out my How to Heal from a Breakup course for free. For 14 days, it will take you through all the things you need to do to recondition your mind to be ready to leave in a way that won't hurt so much, but also know whether or not this is the right relationship for you and to be able to really have that closure and move on. So that's obviously reason number one why you're not a top priority in a relationship. And that kind of goes without saying. And those are the steps you would take. Reason number two is that you aren't communicating your needs in the positive. And so what happens, and this happens a lot with more emotionally unavailable people, is because they won't be there to meet your needs as much because the modeling and conditioning that they grew up with was essentially to say that, we don't meet each other's needs. Like a lot of more avoidant leaning individuals, they didn't get a lot of give and receive in relationships. They more had family dynamics or systems where between themselves and their caregivers, it felt like two ships passing in the night. So their conditioning around what a relationship should look like, what a healthy, great relationship should look like, their comfort zone for that is to see that there's this kind of distancing. And so if you're dating somebody who's more in that space, then one thing you have to be really mindful of is that you don't do this thing that really drives this cycle between a more anxious leaning and more avoidant leaning partner. And it's to communicate in the negative. So there's a huge difference, just to be super clear, between saying something like, you never spend time with me. You never want to spend time with me. Versus saying, hey, I miss you. I feel disconnected. I'd love for us to just do something really fun that kind of brings us back on track. Why don't we spend Saturday night doing this really fun date night at XYZ place? Right. So if you say to somebody like, I miss you, I'm feeling disconnected, let's do some more fun things together, you're communicating proactively about the future and you're communicating in the positive, what you do want instead of what you don't want or are unhappy with. Like when we said a moment ago, you never spend enough time with me. More avoidant people, when they feel criticized, they shut down and they don't feel accepted. They tend to have this big kind of like thing where they feel like you think something's wrong with me, you're not accepting me for who I am, for how I am. And that tends to lead them to just further shut down more. So that could be a huge reason why you're not a top priority is because you're not communicating your needs in the way that's going to allow them to be heard. And thus, you are also in a dynamic where somebody, when you do communicate in the negative, is more likely to just shut down further. Reason number three is that you are not speaking about your needs or your boundaries at all. There's a lot of people, especially more anxious leaning people in relationships, that are afraid to even communicate what they need, sometimes don't even know what they need, and don't know how to say their true yeses and nos. So they end up in people pleasing situations where they feel resentful and burnt out. And that's only ever going to lead to destruction in relationships. And so if you don't know your needs, if somebody's like, hey, what are your needs? And you can't name the top 5 needs you have from your partner in a relationship in a crystal clear manner, chances are you are not getting those needs met. Because if I don't know what my needs are, how could I possibly communicate and share them to somebody else? And so by default, I'm just expecting my partner to mind read. And so it's really important to learn to communicate your needs in the positive manner, to know what your needs are, and to know how to really articulate them in a way that's most likely to get your partner to meet them. And if you want to do a deep dive into that for Mental Health Month for May, we have a 14-day free trial to our whole platform. and you want to start with the needs course. So you can go in there, you get access to our daily events. You can come in, ask me questions. I'm in webinars 3 days a week. We have a webinar literally every single day between myself and our amazing, amazing trained facilitators, coaches. There's lots of practice periods for things, and there's 60 courses. So you can check out any course and you can get through at least 2 courses in 14 days. Because each one's like an hour and a half, but it really digs to like the root level of things and helps you get the results. So, again, you can dive into that. I'll put the link down below, but you should start with the needs course if you don't know what your needs are. It's a really empowering course to deeply understand yourself. And that gives you the information you need to communicate and be seen and heard and made a priority to your partner. And as long as you're communicating in that positive way and using those tools that course covers, then you're much more likely to see breakthroughs. Number 4, you diminish yourself and you are afraid to take up space. And this is something that commonly happens for people who are afraid that they are a burden or afraid of being abandoned or disliked or rejected is you keep yourself small. And so what ends up happening is the more you keep yourself small, you are not seen and heard by your partner. You are not understood, and so you also stop yourself from really being seen and being known by somebody you love. And over time, that can feel really defeating. And again, it can create the breeding grounds for a lot more resentment to take place. So the more you allow yourself to take up space, you let yourself be seen and heard and known, and you open up and you're vulnerable about who you are and what you're looking for in a relationship, the more likely you are to actually be made a priority. Because you can't have these things happen to you if you are not in a position where you're allowing them to happen, allowing the things that you need to be seen and known to be made a priority to be considered. And so it's really important that you do this. And in doing this, you will know if this person that you're in a relationship with is going to show up or not. And if they don't, then you have to assume that who you are getting right now is who you will continue to get. You can set that deadline like we talked about for the first point. And if you don't see the needle move and see things change, then you're going to be presumably not so happy in the relationship long term. So why are you sticking around? So make sure you're clear, you're honest with yourself, you allow yourself to take up space, to communicate in a healthy way in the positive format. Allow your needs to be understood and seen and known and see them through and be consistent about it. If you're doing all these things, the vast majority of the time, you are carving out space to be a priority in a healthy way. This is where people rise to the occasion. And if somebody is not showing up at all, then it's better you know sooner rather than later. So I hope this makes sense. Please come join me for 14 days for free in PDS. Ask me your questions. I would love to see you on the other side there. And pick the top courses. Go look through the course curriculum. See the top courses. If you can get through 2 in 14 days, go look at the ones that you see that you need the most and go check out the free trial. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to this channel if you're enjoying the content here too. And I will see you in future videos.